Hey guys, wanted to record a little video in the forest, in my forest studio, and hope the sound is good. And the sound you can hear is leaves falling because it's autumn. All this stuff falls down. So I want to talk about what we should be prepping for next couple of months. I've had a video about the forest and how it's good for people, and I also made a video with survival hints and stuff like this. So yeah, literally we should stick around the forest. That's the best way to avoid on the unstable situations that might come out really soon. So in case you live near Canada, that's a good place where to go if something happens, because Canada got some forests on the north side, so that is pretty good. And I hope you have forests nearby your house. But anyway, what I want to talk about is what is going to happen in a couple of next months. What I was saying is that Trump was scripted to win, or whoever is going to back him up. I would say that. Because literally the script can't escape the situation that could happen to Trump during all this process. So that's why the script is highlighting this, that it's Trump or whoever is going to back him up. So the substitute for Trump right now is Pence. So well, think about it. So Pence is really the guy who is supposed to be judged as a potential leader if something happens to Trump himself. So, well, and it can happen because not that long ago we have seen the case where they found the poison in the letter that was sent to Trump, and that's not a very often case. Last time it was after 9/11. There's some cases with the letter poisoning and something like this. So it was like hysteria on that. So and right now we have this hysteria on Novichok, the case with Navalny, the previous case with Skripal, the previous cases with whatever claimed to be poisoned by Novichok. The brother of Kim Jong-un of North Korea was also poisoned with something like Novichok, and so on. So that could be a case. If something happens to Trump, it could be blamed for Russia. So the script is letting those who managing the script and controlling the script to handle it by himself. But I already see that potentially something with poisoning could happen, and according to the current regime in the USA, so maybe not even Trump, but somebody from his family, I don't know. So something can happen, and it's possibly one of that scenarios that could happen, and the script totally written for these challenges for those who actually manage the script to happen. So the controlling group doesn't really care about the actual result. They care that something can happen, and that would be the case, and that could be blamed on Russia, because Russia is scripted to be the enemy number one.
As we gather here, an outbreak of Ebola overwhelms public health systems in West Africa and threatens to move rapidly across borders. Russian aggression in Europe recalls the days when large nations trampled small ones in pursuit of territorial ambition. The brutality of terrorists in Syria and Iraq forces us to look into the heart of darkness.
Trump, Putin, Russian collusion.
Trump, Russian sort of collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion. Trump, Russian metal collusion.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, potentially collusion.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian bot collusion.
Trump, Russian collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Russian hacked our election.
Here comes a big change. Because all of a sudden, Trump, Russian possible collusion.
You have information that Russia is trying to influence the election for 2020?
Yes, I think the intelligence community's consensus is that Russia continues to try to influence our elections, primarily through what we would call malign foreign influence, as opposed to what we saw in 2016, where there was also an effort to target election infrastructure, cyber targeting. We have not seen that second part yet this year or this cycle, but we certainly have seen very active efforts by the Russians to influence our election in 2020 through what I would call more the malign foreign influence side of things. Social media, use of proxies, state media, online journals, et cetera, an effort to both sow divisiveness and discord. And I think the intelligence community has assessed this publicly, primarily to denigrate Vice President Biden and what the Russians see as kind of an anti-Russian establishment. That's essentially what we're seeing.
All 17 intelligence agencies.
17 agencies.
17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed.
17 of our intelligence agencies.
17 intelligence agencies.
17 different United States intelligence agencies.
All 17 of them.
Although Trump is pushing the agenda on China, that China is actually the enemy number one, but you should keep that in mind. So actually the script, when the script means China or somebody's mentioning China, actually we have the situation versus Russia, because China is owning, I would say almost owning half of Russia right now, and China owning half of Africa right now. China is owning Australia, New Zealand, and U.S. can't do nothing with that. Actually, what U.S. can do is actually be used as an enemy for Russia, and that's it, because U.S. and versus China is uncomparable situation. It's never gonna happen as a military case. China is not gonna fight U.S. and it's gonna be avoiding any situation, but as a good wrestler, they're gonna use the energy of the one who's trying to pin them, which is U.S. freestyle wrestler, and they're gonna be using this as judo or whatever orient, martial arts. So they're gonna be using energy of U.S. and actually making U.S. To stand in a worse position. Each time is gonna be the worse and worse and worse and worse, and actually China is winning. Any scenario, any possible scenario of military conflict, China is winning it, because so that's why Russia is going to be enemy number one in the script, and everybody knows that. So winning Russia actually means winning China, so you can understand that. I'm not saying like totally destroying the territory of Russia or anything, but changing the manager can actually help winning the prize of Russia and winning the resources of Russia, and cutting off China from the Russian resources, actually beating China long term and mid term too, because Russia is actually supplying China with large amounts of resources. So then you have to only cut the Persian Gulf, and Iran is done with supplying China. So, and that's it for China's new Silk Way. That's it for China's arch of prosperity. That's it for China's program in Australia, Oceania, New Zealand, Africa. That's it, because China's gonna be locked in its region and his district, and I don't know for how long, but they can stick as a they can just quit the theory of global leadership for a very long time, at least. So, but right now in this situation, when Russia is a China's region, China's influence region, U.S. cannot do anything with that. So that's the fight between the Rothschilds and Rockefeller-based, political powers. That's the fight between the operatives like Soros. Soros is one of the biggest and importantest operatives, and so on. So Rockefeller is pushing Soros towards the goal. They are like, the left and the right hand of one project, actually. So, and they are fighting the Rothschilds. Rothschilds are not that bad, actually, right now, because they are begging for gold, and this is the only stability we can have right now in this situation, when the currency is going to be totally crashing, markets are going to be crashing. So I would say Rothschilds are a lot bigger and better support for humankind right now with their gold-based standards and their banking systems that still is kind of working. So I hope it's going to be working, because if we have a collapse in banking sector, private banking sector, we're going to be losing big time. And I don't think that any country will survive this crisis with the fall of the banking system. So Rothschilds are kind of the team that I favor right now. Although they're certainly bad, and probably as bad as Rockefellers and Soros. But what Soros and Rockefellers doing is not only ridiculous, but is also aggressive, and it's very dangerous. So that's why I favor Rothschilds more right now, because they're like kind of calm and conservative, and they're backing Trump, they're backing Putin. At least some of their efforts are backed by Rothschild. So all this crisis was actually created to shake up the bag of challenges and to see what comes out. So actually the script is not very firm, and it only says that this or that gonna happen, and that's it. So this is what's going to happen, and what's going to happen is the financial reset that we're gonna see after the elections are won by the Trump or whoever's gonna be backing him up. So, and that's what's gonna happen. Nobody actually says about how he's going to be winning. Maybe that's gonna be a fair win. Maybe that's gonna be meddling again, and Russia's gonna be claimed of meddling.
We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit with Mexico.
China ate your lunch, down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
And who knows? So remember, I was saying Russia is the enemy number one. It's going to be scripted. And Trump doesn't want it. So at least he knows. He knows that China is actually playing, not Russia. Russia doesn't give a damn about what's going on in the U.S. At least as the U.S. doesn't poke Russia with every sanctions on everything. So, and that shows the cooperation of U.S. and Russia in so-called space programs, Antarctica's deals, and so on. But Rothschilds with Rockafellers are fighting very bad. So you have to understand that. So this is not a war of countries anymore. It's a global corporacy's war. global oligarchy wars. And I've been reading a book about one of the biggest players of 20th century, the guy who was actually born in 19th century. He was born in a family of migrated Jews, and with the last name of Baruch. Baruch is a blessed in Jewish, and so blessed by God something. And the clan of Baruchs was the one that was a shadow controller of that banking system that was started way back in the days after probably the reset where we have seen the fall of the empire. So those Venetian bankers, those who collaborated with the Hanseatic Union and Atlantean Union and the Marine Kingdom, those trader bankers that escaped from the catastrophe and established their control in the different countries. So, and those operatives who actually funded all the resets. So the Baruchs have been in the shadow for very long, and that guy Baruch from 19th century, Bernard Baruch, appeared to be out of nowhere, out of poor family, but somehow he managed to be assigned by his mother to different jobs, or 3 jobs or something. So his mother was the one that pushed him into the business, showed him to the right people, because he was a rather young person when he arrived in New York, and from Louisiana or something. So from the southern state where all this slavery and all this stuff, and his family was fighting on the southern army. So he was pro-southerner. So what do you think about that? And that guy arrives with his family as a youngster to New York and assigned by his mother, who has some contacts in New York, to a local trading company, brokerage company. And then he was communicating with such sharks of trading and stock markets speculation, like Morgans and stuff like this. So a bunch of people, Rockefeller people were there. So a bunch of railroad companies people were there. So very interesting story about the beginning of all the stock markets in New York, and how it was trading, how those papers were sold out, how they manipulated the stocks. And that guy luckily becomes Woodrow Wilson's friend, and was the one who was actually pushing the Federal Reserve System Act. He was the one amongst those who were actually operating that project, and so on. So I want to have a video on Baruch, full video research. I need to finish that book actually, because Baruch was the deputy, the assistant of like 4 presidents or 6 presidents, I think, if I'm not wrong. So, but whatever, bunch of presidents like Woodrow Wilson, Roosevelt, Truman, and even Kennedy. He was in some council of Kennedy, I think. So Roosevelt was like for 3 terms. So I would say, at least 4 or 5 presidents he was consulting. He was a national security advisor. He was the one that was pushing for military. He was the lobbyist of the military complex. He was the one who was signing all those military contracts during World War One. He was the one who was actually operating the Great Depression, who sold all the papers before the Great Depression started, before the Black Tuesday, and so on. So I would say before the stock market crash, he was the one who was operating that situation. He was the one who was actually leading who was consulting Churchill. He was one of the best friends of Churchill, and so on. So he was the one that was consulting even about Cuban crisis, guys. That's Bernard Baruch, a very big white shark of the previous century.
Elder statesman Bernard Baruch comes home on the Queen Mary. He tells of being met in England by his host, Winston Churchill.
When I arrived at sometime after midnight, I found him there waiting with me, despite the fact that I told him not to come. You see, between 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, that's quite a late hours for youngsters like Churchill and myself to be up, except when we played gin rummy. I said to him, you know, I brought you a present, some eggs. He said, well, you know, he says the chickens in England have not forgotten how to lay eggs.
One of the biggest one of the biggest players, one of the most open member of the Council of Controllers. He was actually operator on the ground. Just because he was who he was, and he had a family and friends and all those colleagues, and his clan was mainstream. Henry Kissinger, one of the biggest operatives of 20th century. He's still alive, actually. He is still solving big problems, and he is still, I think, in a good shape, and I hope he will be for very long, because he's definitely one of the biggest operatives of Rockafellers. But anyways, Henry Kissinger had this, I would say, we call it челночная diplomacy. It's like when you arrive from certain point to certain point, and back and forth. Let's call it back and forth diplomacy. I will look up, maybe we have a definition on that from Henry Kissinger, because I have it only in Russian explanation. Maybe in English it has a term too. Well, anyways, let's say it's a joke. And so what you have to do is you have to marry a Russian guy from the village near the forest somewhere, from Siberia, Siberian dude. You have to marry him to Rockefeller's daughter. How can you do that? That's a solvent from Henry Kissinger. And that's actually one of the jokes we have about him. You go to Russian village into Siberia, Kissinger goes there and says, hey dude, you want to marry Rockefeller's daughter? And dude says, why would I want to do that? Well, she's a daughter of no, let's say that one more time. Try number 2 for this joke. You want to marry a banker's daughter? So why would I want to do that? Because she's the daughter of Rockefeller. Oh, that changes everything. Yeah, I can. I want to do that. Okay. And he goes to to Switzerland and says, "You want a Siberian dude to be head of one of your banks in Switzerland?" So why would we want to do that? Because he's marrying the Rockafellers' daughter. Oh, that changes everything. Of course, we can have him as a president, vice president, whatever you want. What destination, what assignment you want. Let's do that. Okay, and then he goes to Rockefeller, says, well, one of the dudes from Siberia wants to marry your daughter. So why would she want to do that? Rockefeller said that. Well, he is a vice president of one of the Swiss banks. Oh, that changes everything. Of course, you can propose that. Just ask her if she's okay. And so they go to the daughter, says, well, one of the Swiss bank vice presidents wants to marry you. She says, why would I want to do that? Well, he's a big Siberian dude. Oh, that changes everything. That's okay with me. So that's a joke. And that's actually how things are being sold. They know exactly who are they playing, and this is like chess game. They assign the roles to certain people, and those people are not very smart, of course. All they care about is money and whatever they hook them up to, and they use them. And I had a video about the dictatorship technology also going to be uploading it pretty much soon. You might as well want to watch that, how this dictatorship technology actually is working. So the people are fooled and everybody is okay. Well, thanks all for watching then. See you later. Bye.